Welcome to the Happiness Happens podcast. I'm Simona Nicole, host of the show, mindset coach, and motivational speaker. I've made it my mission to help you get unstuck, shift your mindset, and understand your worth to help you live your most purposeful life. Each week, I will bring you an idea, guest, or a positive thought that will leave you inspired and empowered to win your life. We decide the stories we tell ourselves and where we invest our energy. I'm so grateful you popped in. Now let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode on the Happiness Happens podcast. I say this every single week, and I know I say this every single week, that I'm so excited for this week's guest. This week we have Toni Chowdhury on the show, and she is absolutely incredible. We were just talking before this, and I don't know. I feel like our personalities just match so well. So I'm really excited for you to hear all the incredible things that she's going to say today and speak about and, all that kind of thing. So Toni is actually based in Montreal, Canada, which is so incredible. Side note for me, because I'm in just outside of Toronto, Canada, and I don't get to meet a lot of Canadians sort of in the same space. So it's awesome. And Toni helps creative women entrepreneurs learn how to find continuous streams of high-paying dream clients without the stress and the fear of not knowing what to do next by using her proven ideal client acquisition trifecta so that they can have financial freedom and build a business around their ideal life. Toni is a speaker, and she also organizes the Holistic Entrepreneurship Summit that brings together talented speakers on a multitude of topics from all around the world. And the summit's mission is to bring free education to female entrepreneurs who need the support and the knowledge to speak up, step up, and level up their lives and their businesses. Toni has been an entrepreneur for 10 years while still working in a corporate job with a Fortune 100 software company. Her coaching and consulting businesses were a result of her watching women struggle in their feelings of deservingness and ability to live their dream life. And Toni has been through abuse and domestic violence, suffered from clinical depression her entire life, and firmly believes that if someone can put mind over matter, everything is possible. And this makes her feel really called to help women succeed on their own terms. So Toni, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, Simona. I just realized what a long introduction that was. Oh my God.
It was such a good one too, but isn't it kind of crazy when you hear your bio read back to you and you're like, yes, I did all of those things.
That's crazy. Thank you so much for having me. It's a wonderful opportunity.
Thank you for saying that. The pleasure is all mine. I'm so excited to dive in. And I would love for you to sort of just tell us a little bit about the journey that sort of brought you to where you are today.
That's actually my journey probably started, when I was a kid. I always dreamt of moving to Canada because my aunt lives here and she would bring back stories of Canada. And, it just made me dream of, always living in Canada. And of course, it didn't kind of work out that way. I had to go through a bad marriage and divorce and a lot of abuse and domestic violence for me to realize. And I had my son at that time. He was just born, so he was like a little baby. And I realized that if I had to give him a good life, it couldn't be in India, because that's where I was born and raised. Because there was all that stigma around divorce and being a single parent and all of that stuff. So actually, that's when I realized that, I would move to Canada. I had the credentials to move here, the qualifications, and that's what I did. I moved to Canada, and that's now 20 years ago. So it was just me and my son. He was 3 years old, and I had no family support, besides the first 5 weeks that I spent with my aunt in Ottawa. And then I moved out on my own. And, very soon as a single parent, you realize that you don't have a lot of money to live off of, because, overnight I went from being a senior executive at a software company in India to a factory worker, literally, in Canada when I came here. So that obviously I could barely put food on the table. I barely paid my bills. But I knew that I didn't have a lot of time, especially because my son was so young. But I think I always had that entrepreneurial mindset because my family has been in business for over 60 years. Wow. But I ran away from it too. I mean, that was also one of the reasons I came to Canada. I didn't want to have anything to do with the business. So funny enough, I think it runs in my blood. But then I started kind of thinking, my son was a little bit older, and I started thinking I needed to earn more money, because I was also trying to help support my parents in India, because my dad had retired by then. So so it all came together, and I started because I started my business because I wanted more money. But it kind of grew into something way bigger, way, way bigger than that.
That's incredible. So when we were speaking beforehand, you were saying that you have sort of like two businesses right now at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
plus the job that you're working.
Yes.
That is absolutely like incredible and so inspiring. So like how do you find time for it all?
I think I'm able to compartmentalize my day, because my corporate job, I actually this past March, I went down to working 4 days a week. I was working full time up until now, and I've been in business for 10 years, right? So because one of the reasons was also because I wanted to show women that it is possible to have a corporate job full time, be a single mother, but still just to go after your dream life, right? So that was one of the things. But I went down to 4 days a week. So I'm always kind of looking at ways to, be more productive, be more efficient. So I kind of usually never bring work back home from my day job. So that is something, and I make it a point. I'm really good at, optimizing my time. So I make sure that I finish my work, my day job stuff at my day job. And when I come back, because I don't have a lot of energy left after that. And I work with like a Fortune 100 company. So it's a very demanding job. I'm an innovation coach, actually. So I work with a lot of other, internal and external customers as well. So my mind is always, going. So when I come home, I'm like, I don't have much brain power left.
No.
So I have to be very, very particular. Plus, of course, I do have some, self-care practices like meditation and affirmation and all of that. So that too, kind of, they give me energy. So, it's like the second wind, so
it's true.
I think that's how I think I get it done. I don't know what I do, but I kind of, help me.
It's true. And it's also kind of like, if you've been in business for 10 years, you've also been working at the same time. And so you learn throughout time to plan your time, right? In other ways.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. And, what about your son? Like if you've been here for 20 years, he was 3 when you got here. So he's probably like in his 20s now. What kind of, what kind of things do you think that he's learned from seeing his mom go and do all these incredible things? Like, does he have that entrepreneurial spirit too?
Funny thing, he didn't, he always said, I don't want to work as hard as you do because I don't want to kill myself in my 20s. But funny thing is he's going to be 24 in a couple of months. But he moved out. He finished his finance from the oh my goodness, Concordia University. He went to school there. He finished his degree, and he got a job with an American company in investments. And now he moved out. He's doing his work. Plus, he's a fitness buff, so he's running his fitness gig on the side. So that's where he said, no, I'm not going to work as hard, but he spends like 3 hours at the gym, doing his own training plus coaching clients.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. And so it kind of is working hard at the same time doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, and he helps out a lot of his friends. Like, he does a lot of free coaching and fitness coaching and all of that. So he's busy. I mean, he says that he doesn't work hard, but he does. But he does what he loves doing. So that makes a difference.
That is so the key. You know what I mean? Like when you're doing, because I understand, what you're saying, because I also work in a corporate job as well and having my business as well. The business part, because it's so driven out of passion, doesn't actually feel like work at all.
True. Yeah, I totally relate.
Yeah. What are the two businesses that you have? Are they like similar or are they different?
They're actually different business models completely. So one is the summit. So that I started, last year. I knew I had this vision, and then I was fortunate enough to meet 6 other really amazing ladies, and we got together and we got that thing off like on zero budget. Not a single dollar spent. We did all the promotions ourselves. We did all the delivery, everything. It was fantastic.
Wow.
So we decided to relaunch it, in April. So that is a different business completely. So that is all to do with the summit and, having speakers, recruiting speakers, and, having them do workshops after the summit, keeping the group engaged and all of that. And the other side is, which is my original thing, which is basically coaching. And I do some consulting with corporates as well, but that is not where my passion lies. Because I'm an innovation coach, a lot of times, people will reach out to me and say, hey, can you help us with this small innovation? So I've traveled to Australia to do workshops. I've traveled to the US, but that is not where my passion lies. My passion lies with working with women, helping them, supporting them, and, helping them realize that they can be more than just a role of whether a mother or wife or a daughter or whatever, and, give in to what they really are passionate about and what they dream of doing.
Oh, I love that so much. And there's so many different ways that you could take somebody's dream and, and
absolutely
help them in their lives. And it doesn't have to just be like a coaching business for them as well. It could be anything that they're passionate about.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
What does your ideal client acquisition trifecta look like? It's such a cool name. Like, what's it all about?
So it's basically got 3 components. So I believe that, I come from I approach my business in a very holistic way. Okay. And I don't think that just selling tools or teaching people how to use tools is enough, because tools are here today. They'll go away tomorrow. Even social platforms, right? They're not, your Facebook, your Instagram, they could just kind of shut down tomorrow. And then what? Right? So I always approach it from a strategy point of view. So the trifecta is basically one point is the ideal client, because I believe your ideal client is your heart and your lifeblood, for your business. The next thing is your brand. And I always tell people that even if you're not the face of your own brand, of your company brand, you have to know what your personal brand is to even know who your ideal client is. Who do you want to work with? Your ideal client is not just somebody who pay you money. You want to work with them because you are building a relationship, right? So if you just end up with somebody who pays you $10,000, but they're just jerks, you don't really want to work with them, right?
Exactly.
So one is your ideal client, one is your brand, and the third thing in the trifecta is customer experience. Because again, if your customer doesn't go through a good experience, if they're not happy, they cannot, you cannot make them feel special, they are not going to renew their relationship with you, right? So it's going to be just one-off thing, I'll buy and I'll leave. And the funny part is that this is actually my third pivot in my business, in my entrepreneurial journey. So the first one was as a culinary teacher.
What?
I was teaching in cooking. Yes, I was teaching in cooking for just about a year. And then I decided, no, photography is my jam. So I changed to photography because I love doing photography. And funnily, I have a couple of clients who have followed me through all my 3 businesses. Can you believe it?
Wow.
Like they came to me to learn how to cook, Indian food at home. Then they came back to me as clients because they had kids. And so I photographed her family for 7 years.
Wow.
And even after I actually said, no, I'm not doing any more photography. Like, I'm done. I'm into coaching. No, please, can you just, my son is turning, he said, no, you have to, so last year was the last time actually I did her family portraits. And then she followed me into my coaching as well. So it's funny. And then I have, customers who came to me for photography, who's followed me into my coaching business. So I believe that if I can have those 3 things, the trifecta of the ideal client, the brand, and the customer experience, you make lifetime they've become my friends. They're no longer clients, right? They're my friends. And I have people that, my clients who become my brand ambassadors. they're always referring other clients, and obviously those other clients are like them as well, my ideal clients.
Exactly. And such a good point. It's so much more than just it's so much more than just money. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? It's really about like relationships at the end of the day. And the relationship is such an important piece because, there are so many people who do so many different things in the world, and there's very often like duplicates in all types of industries and all types of coaches and all types of, events and all that. But the way that somebody feels after they speak with you, and the way that somebody, experiences like your product and your service, that's so key, because that's what they're going to remember about the entire thing, not the money. You know what I mean?
Totally. And that's what I try to, tell my clients as well, that when you pay for something right now, it's a price, right? Because you're paying in hard dollars or whatever currency.
Yeah.
But in the long run, if you gain something from that, it becomes a value. It no longer, you never look back and say, oh, I paid so much money. You look back and say, I got so much value out of this.
That's so true.
It's a lifetime thing, right? And also with the customer experience part of it also, it starts right from the time they actually first even hear about you. They may not even see you anywhere. It maybe somebody's just told them, hey, you know what? You're looking for this. I know somebody who can help you out. And that it starts from there. And if you are providing a good customer experience, what happens is you don't even have to, they say that it's 5 times more expensive to acquire new clients than to keep kind of serving your existing clients. Because you spend in time, you spend in energy, you spend in money to acquire new clients. And imagine if your clients keep coming back to you, you don't have to look for new clients. You could just have a few really good clients and have the success you want.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, that's so true. And then it gives you the energy and the time and the space to develop different things and to invest your energy in different areas.
Exactly.
I love that. And I think that that's kind of the thing with the coaching industry. I think a lot of people are led to believe that to be successful, you need to be bringing on 10 clients every single month and yada, yada, yada. But like, I think there's only so much capacity that people have. And I think that, at the same time, you need to be able to provide, it depends on what type of coach you are or what service you bring. But, if you want to have that relationship, you need to be the type of person that cares about that relationship. You have to bring that into what you do. But if you have like 20 people every single month, you don't have the time to get to know people on that intimate level,
Not at all.
Right?
Exactly.
I know someone who did coaching with somebody else, and I guess her brand has like a bunch of coaches underneath it. So they work for her. And so, this girl had gone to coach with her, and she thought that she was getting like the one-on-one with this actual person, but it turns out it wasn't, and it wasn't that experience at all. And, it takes away from the feeling, you know what I mean? And,
Absolutely.
And it travels, right? It's what other people say about you too.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's like the referral thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
A good or a bad referral.
Exactly. Okay. If you think about all of the different things and all of the things that you help women overcome, what are some common things that you find that women are struggling in, when they come to you?
The biggest thing is clarity. They are not clear because I believe that if you don't have clarity, you're overwhelmed in anything you do. Okay. If you don't know where you're going, you'll just end up anywhere. And that may not be where you want to go. Right. So if the biggest thing that women come to me is with clarity. And that's the first thing I do with them when I go through any kind of coaching program. Even if it's an online program, by the way, like if it's a video training, whatever, I will make them go through at least one module where they can get clear on where they want to be, what their vision is, what their mission is, etc. And that is the biggest thing. That's why I kind of include that, because entrepreneurship, and you will know it, is mindset, because you too have a corporate job. Imagine if you didn't have that mindset. Imagine if you weren't clear on wanting that business outside of your corporate job. Would you be here? You wouldn't.
Exactly.
So most women don't have that clarity, and then they think that they're overwhelmed. They don't know, they feel stuck naturally because they can't see the next step, right? And they have all these things going around them, and they feel like, I don't know which one to start with, and I don't know what comes next. So I think that is the biggest thing, biggest thing. And once they're clear, it takes care of a lot of stuff. It takes care of even their physical health, because they are less stressed and less overwhelmed, right?
Oh, that's such a really good point. Especially, I think just that clarity in itself, I think people overlook what it takes to get through to the other side and find that clarity. And like you're saying, exactly, people don't know that the reason why they're feeling stuck or overwhelmed is because they're lacking that clarity or lacking that vision and lacking that, it's not the drive, you know what I mean? Like, it's not the drive, it's not the ambition.
No. Yeah.
Oh
no,
my God,
not at all.
love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And so how do you think that a lot of the time when people come to you that there's like a lot of struggle with imposter syndrome?
Oh yeah, I would say that is the next one.
Just hitting them on the head today, nail on the head.
You hit the nail on the head. Yeah. No, it is, because again, we are always so critical of ourselves, especially women. And one of the reasons I'm working just completely exclusively with women is because of that. One is that they are the people that raise their hands the most. I wasn't always coaching only women. I was also coaching men.
Yeah.
But women are the ones that raise their hands for support. But when they do come for support, they are like, oh, I don't think I know how to do this, or, oh, I don't think I'm capable of doing this. Or we are always second guessing them. And then you ask them what they actually do in their jobs, in their lives, whatever, and they'll give you this long list of accomplishments, right? And when you finally point it out, they say, oh yeah, maybe it's not so bad after all. And then, they start kind of seeing, again, clarity.
Exactly. And then they see, that's a really, really key thing, especially like highlighting everything that, like, all of your accomplishments, because I think that a lot of the time we spend in that place of, I mean, I've been there 100%, that place of like, wow, I have no idea what I'm doing. You know what I mean? But then it's like, actually, hold on a second. Let's write it out. All the things that, Simona, all the things you've done. And it takes the power away from that imposter syndrome.
I completely agree with you. Yes. A simple thing is writing it all down. It just clears your head, right? And when you get it out of your head and on paper or on computer, whatever, it just seems so much more doable. And, and also, like, you feel that, oh yeah, I have accomplished so much, just like you said. And actually I've been there too. I go there sometimes, even now when I'm starting something new, I say, oh my God, like, who am I to talk about this? Like, who am I to whatever? And then I'm thinking, what's wrong with me? Like, yeah, I'm afraid of judgment. And usually that's what it is, right? When you have imposter syndrome, it's because you have a fear of judgment. You have a fear of failure. And now I've learned to embrace it. I've learned to embrace it, because I just tell myself, yeah, if I'm feeling that I'm not good enough, one is that it'll help me be more conscientious with what I'm bringing to the world, right? So I'll spend a little extra time to find out more, become a little bit more comfortable. And that is something. And the other thing is, I just do it anyway, do it scared. And that improves your confidence right away. Because you're always afraid the first time, right?
Yeah.
When you do it a second time, it's not so bad anymore.
That's so true. And, it's like a nice reminder to yourself that even if you're scared the second time, it's like, well, you've already done this one time.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? What's the worst that's going to happen?
That's it.
It's like, maybe you won't see the results that you want, but it doesn't mean that it's a failure. I actually think that, like, I don't know that I agree with the word failure too much, because I don't, right? Like, I don't see things as failure. I feel like you just learn. Yeah.
It's a lesson.
Exactly. And I think once you start to, like, wrap your mind around that, it doesn't really matter. Like, if you launch something and you have 3 sales, or if you do an event and only one person comes, it's not a failure. You just learn something for next time.
Exactly. And in fact, coming from my innovation background, I always tell my clients that you should actually fail, and you should fail fast. Because unless you do that, unless you made a mistake, and failure doesn't mean like failure in that gravest term, but unless you make a mistake, you don't know what you've done wrong, and you cannot improve unless you make a mistake.
That's
You
so true.
you can be like, oh yeah, it was 100% success, but it's not always 100% success. Number one, because we often, we kind of don't see things as they are, the reality. But even if you think there is 100%, like it was 100%, there's always room for improvement. What is one tiny thing that you think you could improve? That doesn't have to be failure, but something to improve. And absolutely, like I always say, fail fast. Do something. Done is better than perfect. Just do it. And then you figure out what went wrong.
I love that.
Yeah, and an idea is never bad. And this too, I strongly believe that an idea is never bad. It's the implementation.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
What would be like a tip that you could leave, with the audience about implementing something? Like, what is one way that you can set yourself up for success every time when you're implementing something?
I would say planning.
Yeah.
Going back to clarity again, right? So and in fact, I'm in the middle of launching my training program next week, right? So it's a new program that I'm helping women find their dream clients. And that's the thing I really, one of the, one component of the trifecta, that's the ideal client acquisition. So I have never done a pilot program like this before, like a hybrid of video and live calls. Okay. I've mostly done either completely live or completely online. Okay. So now I'm doing a hybrid, never done it before. So now I have to visualize the entire process. Like, if I start, then what do I have to start with? And right until the end. So every step, you just visualize every step the best you can. Right? And then you create a plan.
I love
and
that.
That's it. And you write it down. Again, once you visualize the whole thing and you've created a plan, you're clear on what needs to, what piece needs to go where. And you can always kind of, move them around, and you do the best, and you learn from whatever didn't work from that.
Exactly. Oh, I love that so much. And I think that that's really important, is to plan. It's particularly important to hear you say that for me, because I'm not a very good planner. I'll be honest. I get ideas and I'm like, yes, let's just do it. And I'll go and I'll implement it. I'll go the whole way. And then I'm like, what? Why did I do all of that? You know what I mean? Not in a bad way, because I would have probably done it anyway, but in more of like a way that's like, I tend to skip that step, to be honest.
But you know what? No, but honestly, if you are a doer, there are certain people who just think. And they just think. They don't take the next step. They neither plan nor do they actually implement, right? So that's not good. But for you, what I'm hearing is you actually do. So you can always see what didn't go so well, and you can always come back and improve that piece, right? I mean, it's good to plan, because what happens is, like you're saying, you probably end up saving a lot of time and blood, sweat, and tears. But you're doing it, and that's what's important. And when people tell me I'm stuck, that's the first thing I say, like, have you done something to get unstuck?
That's so key.
Yeah. Even if you didn't plan. Exactly. What's the next best step?
Exactly. And that resonates a lot, because especially when you're feeling stuck in something, because it's so easy to sit there and be, feel sorry for ourselves. And I think that I was literally having this conversation today that I want to quickly pause this interview and tell you about the Handel Group coaches that I've had the honor and privilege of bringing onto the Happiness Happens podcast. With every conversation and interview, I've learned something so impactful and so life-changing. Inner You Life is the online coaching course from Handel Group that gives you the tools to get yourself unstuck, wildly happy, and thriving where it matters most to you. Your relationship to yourself, career, love, body, money, time, and more. From wherever, whenever. Recommended by Hugh Jackman, Dr. Mark Hyman, Forrest Whitaker, Elena Brower, and hundreds more. Taught in MIT, Stanford School of Business, and 50-plus institutes of learning across the world. Visit inneryou.coach and use the code HAPPINESSHAPPENS at checkout for $75 off. Now, back to the episode. Today that I was I was doing something and I kept finding myself in like a negative like mindset. And I kept thinking to myself, I'm like, I'm so annoyed of being in this mindset right now. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, I don't want to feel like this anymore. You know,
Right.
I don't want to have this emotion anymore. And then, so I was like, okay, I'm realizing that this is coming from, you know, this specific place. I know why it's happening. And like, it's time to make that choice to pick yourself back up and move on. You know what I mean?
That's
and
it.
it's always a choice.
That's it. Always. Everything is a choice.
I'd love to just, you know, since we're talking about things being a choice, I would love to know what it looks like for you being clinically depressed and being able to pull yourself out of that situation and into something new, because it's honestly a little bit of, I've never been diagnosed with depression. How would I, you know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't know, but at the same time, it's like sometimes in my mind, I'm like, well, it's that little action step. So how have you been able to take the action and put one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other when it feels like impossible to do that?
I think I have trained myself over the years, and I don't always share this, but I don't know, I hope somebody will benefit from it. It wasn't just I was depressed, I was suicidal at one point.
Wow.
And so it is a miracle that I'm here. And honestly speaking, and not just once, but 3 times. And yes,
Wow.
so it was like my depression was really bad.
Wow.
But the thing is that, and that's why I feel more called, because I feel that if I'm still here, it's because I need to do something. I'm definitely, I've been put here for more, not just to, you know, live my life. So to answer your question, there are days that I don't feel like getting out of bed, you know, honestly speaking. But because I have been a single parent, I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
I would have to go to work, because if I don't work, I won't get paid. It's as simple as that. Back in the day when I was working in a factory, so I would have to pull myself out. So one thing was, it was a compulsion that I had to get out of bed and, you know, get on with my day. But now that I'm in a you know, different kind of an environment, I have a ton of vacation and I could take sick days and all of that. But of course there are still days, but then I think that, okay, I do have something important to do, because I'm probably serving a client, I have a client call, or I have something you know, at work, I have meetings and stuff like that. So I feel, you know, I feel responsible. But again, the weekends, I don't usually, nowadays I don't work on Sundays, like business or work otherwise, mostly. Again, you know, I think that, okay, I don't think I want to get out of bed. But then I think that, you know what, rather than stay in bed, feel sorry for myself, or have dark thoughts and all of that, let's get up and do something concrete, you know, something constructive, whether it's learning something. And I find that the best way I can deal with depression is by learning something, keeping the brain engaged. One of the things that got me into photography was my depression, because when my doctor told me, she handed me a, you know, slip of paper with a referral to go see a psychiatrist. And as I was walking out of her clinic, I remember it was a yellow piece of paper, crumpled it up, threw it in the trash can, and I walked out. I said, I don't want to go and, you know, get meds. First of all, I didn't want to be on meds. Second, you know, even if I were to go see a psychologist or something, you know, lying on a couch 1 hour a week is not going to do anything. So I said, if I have to help myself, it has to be me. It can't be anyone else. So that's when I said, you know, let me see what can I do. And I said, you know, I love photography. I've always been a point and shoot kind of person, just, you know, trigger happy, click,
Yep.
click, click. I'll do this seriously. And that's what I did. I took up photography and it changed my life completely. Wow. So learning is a huge thing. I totally believe in that. Learning, meditation, journaling. These are 3 things that, and especially gratitude journaling, you know, not just writing down what I've done all day, but gratitude journaling. I think that really helps me, at least. And it's just keeping the brain engaged. It's just so it doesn't go into bad places.
Oh, I love that so much. And it's like, you know, do you feel like in some sense that it's not that you're like ignoring the feeling and the emotion that you're having, but instead you're choosing to pull yourself out of it and try to have a different like outcome?
Absolutely. like every day I have to have a conversation. In fact, I was on a podcast interview just a couple of days ago, and I was asked the same question. And I go back to when my friend's husband had told me he also suffered with depression, and he said every morning he would get up and he would ask himself, like, you have a choice. You can either choose to be happy today, or you can choose to be depressed. Which one do you pick? And that stuck with me. And that was like decades ago. That stuck with me. And whenever I have these, bouts of depression, I just get up and ask myself, like, what do you choose? Do you choose to be happy, or do you choose to be depressed? So
that's powerful.
And fortunately, I still have some sanity left, so I never get depressed. But who knows?
Honestly, you never know. Okay. You never know. Oh my gosh. But it also kind of can resonate a little bit to the people who, go through something hard and don't know how to pull themselves back out. And it doesn't have to be, something that's consistent and all the time, but
right.
I think it can especially be tricky if you are someone who is typically, positive and happy and all of the things. When you're faced with that different type of emotion, you don't really know what to do with it. You're like, am I supposed to sit in this? Am I supposed to how am I supposed to move forward with this? That's really, really, really inspiring though, Toni. I'm like, that's incredible. It's incredible. It's really important too, because I know that there are people listening right now that are going to resonate a lot with that. And, it's one thing to hear or read online, like make a choice, make a choice, make a choice. But it's a whole other thing to hear somebody else who physically and actually makes that choice every single day to choose to have a positive outcome for their day. It's amazing. You're welcome. You're welcome. So when you're working with like the online world and stuff like that, how what are some ways that people can become more visible online and share more of their truth online and be very like building those relationships online?
I would say they should do what you're doing, Simona. You're doing an incredible job of showing up online with your show, number one.
Thank you. Oh my God, it's so nice.
Of course. I mean, that is huge. That is huge. Imagine how many people could actually take things away from your shows and improve their lives, right? And you're showing up for them no matter what. Like, you had a launch yourself, right? Despite that, you still went ahead and you scheduled this session.
True.
Right? Right? So you see, so that's what, like, I think people, when we start thinking of becoming visible, we start thinking we have to be all over the internet. We don't. It can just be something, just one thing, like whether it's a podcast or a YouTube show or just a Facebook Live, or just show up on social media with regular posts and stuff like that, right? That could be, and I'm an extreme introvert, right? So
really?
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, I'm an INFJ on the Myers-Briggs. So
I'm like complete opposite, ENFP or something like that.
So, I mean, for me, it's, and I'm not only an introverted person, but I'm also an empath, which means I absorb people's energy. And that can really, set me off or, kind of calm me down, depends on the energy fields, right? So it's very difficult for me to show up online. And one of the reasons I stayed behind the camera for the longest time as a photographer, right? But I never thought of kind of doing podcasts or whatever. But for me, it's like, even when I quit smoking, I quit cold turkey. It's like I do the extreme,
I know. I'm all in.
Yeah.
Schedule 20 this week.
That's it, So that's what, it was very difficult, but look at the way you're showing up, and I think this is what visibility should be about, and for people to choose what they can do, not what everybody's telling them to do. If I tell you, Simona, you have to go shoot like 5 videos or do 5 Facebook Lives every week, you may not be comfortable.
Yeah.
Right? But you're comfortable doing this, right? So just pick one horse and ride it.
I love that.
Says. You know, she said, pick a horse and ride it. Like, don't try to be, you know, all over the place. So yeah, I think that is what people can do, like to be visible online, but consistency is the key.
That's so key. And I love that you said that, because I think that especially nowadays okay, I'll take TikTok as an example. People I see lots of like different services and businesses and coaches going on to TikTok, which is incredible. I mean, I tried and I am too old for this. Like, I am going to sit behind the screen and I'm going to be like, do like that video. I'll watch it and I'll dance it in my bed. But I don't know. I'm like, I don't know. Some part of me is like, I can't schedule the funny. Do you know what I mean? It just kind of happens on its own.
But I can so see you on TikTok. Sorry,
I don't know what I would do.
You're so bubbly and vivacious, and you know, I can see you on it.
Okay, maybe I'll have to. I've been thinking about one particular TikTok that I think I want to do, so I think I'm going to do it, and then I'll send it to you.
Yeah,
I'll send it
I'd
to
love
you when
to see it.
Okay, awesome. But you know, I love that you said though, like, pick one thing and stick with it, because I think that, you know, a lot of the time we all think that we have to be all of these things to all different people, and that we have to help every single person do every single thing, where that's not really the truth.
No, not at all.
And like, to the other part of that, with the visibility piece, I also think that it's being visible is exactly like the way that you do visibility, because I'll tell you, when I posted, so Toni and I met through a Facebook group, and I had just randomly posted that I was looking for, you know, incredible guests for my show, and I, you know, drop your handle and we'll connect. And you took the chance to just put yourself out there. You know what I mean? It could be a no, it could be a yes, and it could be
that was a choice I made.
It was a choice you made, and so like in that moment, you chose yourself and all of the incredible things that you are, instead of choosing fear of like, but maybe I won't get picked, or maybe I won't, you know, maybe my story won't resonate, or maybe this. But I think that unless you try and unless you put yourself out there, you'll never know how your story can impact so many people. You'll never know.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I love that.
I love what you just said, because unless you put yourself out there, you never know. And the other thing is that even if I wasn't picked, imagine I wasn't picked, right?
I couldn't, but okay.
No, but I'm just saying, like, you know, would it have destroyed my world? No, you know, no. And that's the other thing people, you know, don't kind of get, is that sometimes you just have to detach yourself from the outcome. Put yourself out there, but don't worry about what the outcome is going to be. And everything is not personal. If you hadn't picked me, I wouldn't have said, oh, Simona hates me, right? And that's I wouldn't have thought that, you know, because we didn't know each other. And sometimes in the online world, that's what it is. Not everybody knows everybody, right?
Exactly.
But do it anyway. And one of my things this year is to be more visible, you know, to be more visible outside my Facebook group. So,
I love that. What's your Facebook group about?
It's all about, again, supporting women, and I have a very small Facebook group, and you know, I would love to actually have you there. And
I'd love to go. That's why I'm asking. I'm like, how do I find it?
Yes, absolutely. And I kind of handpick my members, because I know, you know, I want to build a community, and I'm not opening it up to more women right now. That, you know, there's like, everybody gets lost in the confusion. So I'm all about the community. Because if you can help just one more woman, imagine what it would do. And she can help one more, right? It's like a chain reaction. So
it totally is. Yeah. It totally is. And, you know, it's very reminiscent of why I even started this show to begin with. So I started this last January. So it's like about a year and a half.
Wow.
Not quite a half, but almost.
Well, almost. Yeah.
Almost. And, you know, I think that honestly, when I first started it, it was more of like a, you know, I want to help other people and let them know that it's okay to feel the way that they feel. That was literally why I started the show. Wow. And I kept saying, I said to my fiance the whole time we started the show, I was like, I just want to help one person. If I have one listener, I'm thrilled. You know what I mean? And then it like one became two, and it grows and it grows and it grows. And it's amazing. But again, it comes down to that, like, you never know what you'll do and how you'll impact someone if you don't just try. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And
exactly.
It's worth more for you to get over the fear and stop talking yourself out of things and just doing them, because what's the worst that's going to happen? You're just going to, okay.
That's it. It's going to bomb. That's it, right? Bomb in a bad way.
Exactly.
Or...
Exactly. And then you're going to learn something from it, and you're not going to do it the same way next time.
Exactly. Right. But it's incredible that you're doing this for a year and a half now.
Thank you.
That's incredible. Wow.
Thank you. You know, I really think that it is, because when I first, and I have to agree with, I don't toot my horn very often, especially like on the show or anything like that. But I've seen a lot of people starting podcasts, like a lot of people that I know, and, you know, I'm just going to start a podcast. I'm just going to go for it. And it's amazing. But the amount of work that it takes to have a podcast and to keep it up every single week, and the amount of, you know, making sure that the guests feel comfortable and prepped and they know where they're going, and you know what I mean, and what we're talking about and all of those things. But then after that, you know, doing the edits and marketing and record all of the pieces, when they come together, when you start, you sort of realize how much work goes into it. And I was speaking to someone the other day about her show, and even just like the consistency of putting episodes out every single week. You know what I mean? In order to grow, you have to be consistent. Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. So sometimes when I hear people say, I want to start a podcast, I'm like, okay, but why? You know what I mean? Like, do you want it as like a get rich quick, get famous quick scheme? Because it's not how it works. But instead, you know, and so now it's become this beautiful, like, incubator of incredible content where I get to interview all these incredible people and hear their stories that, you know, will shape and inspire like the lives of other people too. So
absolutely.
It's
and
incredible.
Yeah, no, I love what you're doing, and especially the fact that you've stayed so consistent. Like, you've picked your horse and you're riding it, right? That is amazing. And you should toot your own horn a little bit more maybe. And I'll tell you why. Because one of my coaches told me, I work with a few coaches, because if I'm not keeping my game up, I can't help other people.
I agree. So, I have two. So
right, I have like multiple. I think I've lost count. So but what he told me is that you don't brag. When you say something good about yourself, you're not bragging, you're branding yourself. Because if you don't talk about what you do, you can't help anybody, because they don't know what you do. And you're the best kept secret, right? So you should talk about what you do. You should talk about, you know, how much commitment of time, energy goes into what you're doing. And, you know, you're doing an incredible job of bringing all these guests onto the show, helping other people. Thank you. So absolutely. Maybe somebody might be interested in learning from you how to do podcasts, right?
It's so true. It's honestly, it's so true. And I think that because, you know, going back to the conversation we were having earlier about, you know, your ideal client and all that kind of stuff. I know who I love to work with, and, you know, the type of people that I love to work with. And I get confused sometimes because I have knowledge in so many different areas, like podcasting, editing videos, communications, like all these different areas. So then it kind of gets confusing, because I'm like, do I talk more about this, or do I talk more about this, or do I just talk about all of it and just call it a day and it'll land somewhere? You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
You know what I mean? Especially you. I mean, you wear so many different hats too, that it's like.
Right. We are all multi-passionate, you know, face it. Especially as entrepreneurs, we are multi-passionate, we are multi-talented, right? So yeah, I totally get what you're saying. It happens to me all the time as well. And then I have to like write it down, like, okay, and, you know, do my little matrix and say, okay, where am I on, you know, passion and purpose and all of that. And yeah.
Oh, I love that. What does that look like? What does that process look like?
So it's basically, you kind of draw like a table and put down all the things that you want to do. Okay. And then you decide like how much impact is that going to cause, create. I decide on the impact, and I decide on the amount of work it's going to take. So suppose, say for instance, something I am planning, I don't have it ready, but I know that it's going to create a lot of impact. So the impact thing is high, but the work is like really low because it involves a lot of work. But I might have something else where it kind of maybe not creates as much impact, but the work is a little bit less because I already have something. So I can then prioritize and decide, okay, I'll bring this out first, right? But if I see that the one that's, you know, going to create max impact, but it also requires max effort, if I see that the impact is like really critical, then I will go with creating that effort and, getting into it and creating that. So that's what I have to do all the time, moving pieces all the time.
Wow, that's really cool. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. It helps I think it helps strategize and build out like the plan of all of the things that you want to do, and you put them in places that actually make sense.
Exactly. I do this actually every quarter. And I also, when I work with my clients, I, do business planning with them. I do business planning workshops just so people get there. And that's what I'm saying, like clarity is so key to everything that you do.
Oh my gosh, it's very true. It's very true. I've spent a lot of time, in the past when I first started my business, very unclear. And it causes a lot of chaos, let me just say, and a lot of confusion.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
But when you finally get it, then it's like that confidence comes out once you find the clarity.
Right. And you feel so much more energized, right? Because all the blocks are out of the way.
Yeah.
And you can just see crystal clear right up, up to the end of the tunnel. And
Exactly. Oh, I love that so much. I love that so much. So, okay, what's your favorite part about what you get to do now?
You mean as a coach?
Yeah.
Or as a business owner?
I want to say as a business owner. Let's go both. Let's do both.
Okay. So as a business owner, my favorite part is that I get to pivot anytime I feel like. Okay.
Ooh, I love that.
I get to work with the type of people I want to work with. I get to dictate my value, my worth, and not let others decide that for me. So I think that is my thing. And also the time freedom, the days that I feel like I'm in a creative zone, I will block out my calendar completely, or I will block out my calendar like 2-3 weeks, in advance, so that I know that I can use that time and I don't want to work with any clients.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a huge thing for me as a business owner. And as a coach, I would say that, again, I get to pick the women I want to work with, because not everybody is my ideal client. I get to, learn that I'm a huge learner. And I shared with you already, like, one of the reasons I keep learning also is to keep myself engaged and my mind engaged. So I love learning. So I think as a coach as well, if I can keep upgrading my knowledge and my experience and my expertise, I can help so many more people, so many more women in so many more different ways.
Oh, I love that. That's wonderful. And when you talk about, okay, so we were talking about earlier about like the trifecta, the 3 different parts, and one of them is branding. Yeah. And so let's say you're in your business and you're wanting to pivot. How can you pivot in a way that's subtle enough that it's not confusing, but also clear enough that it's not confusing?
That's a fantastic question, Simona.
Thanks.
So absolutely. Like I said, that when you start with the branding part, you brand yourself first. You find out who you are, what you stand for, what your values are, what your story is, etc. And people connect with that. Even if you're not the face of your business, you have a company brand, say for instance, but you are the one behind the company.
Right.
People are dealing with you, right? But obviously your company brand is because of the recognition part. Like people will see something and say, oh yeah, that's Simona's thing, right? So when you can have that brand, the personal brand crystal clear, it's very easy to pivot, because you are not pivoting away from your values, your principles, nothing. What you're doing is you are still, and that is what will attract your tribe, because your vibe remains the same, right? And then people will understand, and especially in this day and age, people understand that you don't, and people that remain in the same business like over decades, they're the ones usually who will fade away because they don't know how to pivot.
Right.
But people understand now that, you cannot, if you are an accountant, you may not, you weren't born an accountant, you became one. So you have every right to become something else. 2, 3, 4 years, even 6 months down the line, if you're doing something. And I always say that it's much easier, you should pivot and be clear about it, that, I decided, be authentic, be vulnerable, share that, I realized that I wanted to try this out, but I realized that this is not a perfect match for me.
Right.
And
I love that.
I learned something from this. So I would love to, try this out. When I turned from a culinary teacher to a photographer to a coach, nobody questioned me.
That's just your natural way of evolving and what your interests. That's incredible, because those are really big shifts too, right? Like culinary versus photography versus like this,
nothing to do with anything, like not related at all. They're totally unrelated fields. Totally
crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah. And even within my coaching, sorry, I mean, just to kind of, just in case somebody benefits from this, even within my coaching, I pivoted because I was coaching men and women to start their businesses, to start and launch their businesses, right? And then I made a small pivot because I realized men are not raising their hands so much, but women need me more. So I pivoted that and I started working mostly with women. And even within that, I decided that, you know what, not everybody wants to launch their business like over 6 months or 9 months, because that's how long my program is. I said, what if I can help women scale their business right away and get more clients instead of going through the entire thing? So I made multiple pivots even inside my business, my coaching business.
I love that. You know what? I'm actually really glad that you said that, because it resonates a lot with me. And I know it's going to resonate a lot with our audience too and the listeners, but it resonates a lot with me because I've just done a small pivot and I had a lot of like fear around this pivot. I was like, oh, what happens if, it doesn't resonate anymore, or this person doesn't like this, or so on, so on, so on, all these different things. But I'm like, but do I really care? Like not in a negative way.
I know, yeah.
It's in a way of like, well, it's what I want to do. If you're here for the ride, you're here for the ride. And if you're not, then
that's it.
Exactly.
And obviously it goes back to the ideal client again. So not every business will have the same ideal client. Even within your business, every single product or service will have different ideal clients. It won't be one ideal client for, everything across the board.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Oh, I love that so much. Okay. This is my last question for you. And it's a question that I ask all of my guests when they come on the show. And it's, how could someone start to integrate just a little more happiness in their day, every day, starting today?
Oh, wow. This is a beautiful question. I think the first thing people should do is connect with themselves, because to me, happiness comes from within us. If I allow someone to control my happiness, I think I'd be dead by now, So the thing, and when I did allow that to happen, I wasn't in a good place. I wasn't in a happy place. So I think if we can connect with ourselves and we can decide what is it that really lights us up. And for people that are maybe not sure, I always say that, maybe keep a journal of what you did all day, and then sit down at the end of the day and rate yourself. Okay, I did this on a scale of 1 to 10. 1, I wasn't happy at all, right? And 10, I was like super, happy about this. Rate yourself 1 to 10. And then if you can see a pattern over like 2-3 days of, a week, then do more of what makes you happy.
Oh, I love that. That's really, really good. I love that. Toni, where can our listeners find you?
So I'm hanging out on Facebook a lot these days, Toni Chowdhury. Anybody can connect with me. And my Facebook page is Women Who Win with Toni Chowdhury. They can also find me on my website, but I think Facebook is the best place, or even Instagram, Women Who Win with Toni on Instagram.
Amazing. I'll put the links in the show notes so that people can just click and connect with you so easily and right away. But Toni, thank you so much for being on the show today. This was so wonderful. You're so wonderful.
So much, Simona. Thank you, Simona. Honestly, I mean, we met for the first time face to face, even though we exchanged emails, but it's like I've known you for a while now.
I know, doesn't it? It feels like familiar. I feel like I'm like, okay, so I'll talk to you tomorrow. Like,
thank you so much for the opportunity.
Oh my gosh.
Such gratitude, and thank you for allowing me to share my message.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in to this week's episode on the Happiness Happens podcast. Make sure that you go back to the beginning, re-listen to this whole thing. There's so many incredible things in this episode, you guys, that you can just take and implement into your life right away. And be sure to let us know that you're listening. Let us know what your favorite part was. Let us know what resonated the most with you. And I hope you have a wonderful week. And remember that happiness happens when you're least expecting it.
Thanks so much for being here today. I hope these words have brought you inspiration, insight, and a bit more happiness. Please leave a comment or a review if this episode resonates with you. I would be so grateful. Until next time, remember that happiness happens when you're least expecting it.